Hi everyone. I recently made a video called Human Diet and Evolution. It's a great video with a lot of information. Unfortunately, it's 56 minutes long. If you don't want to get into so much detail, but you still want to know the basics about your ancestral diet, you should watch this video instead. It's only 9 minutes long. Around 39 million years ago, the first anthropoids evolved in what is modern-day Libya. These were tiny monkeys weighing 1/4 of a pound. They migrated to Africa, and the original populations in Asia went extinct. For the next 27 million years, anthropoids gradually evolved by a natural selection into the monkey-like common ancestor for gorillas, chimps, bonobos, and ancient hominids. 6 to 12 million years ago, we saw the divergence of that common ancestor into the gorilla genus, the pangenus, which includes chimps and bonobos, and various genera of ancient hominids. 46 million years ago, we saw the formation of various early hominid species such as Sahelanthropus chadensis, Ardipithecus ramidus, and Australopithecus afarensis. These species were still very monkey-like in their appearance, and they did not resemble modern humans at all. 3.5 to 4 million years ago was important, so pay attention. Two things happened here. First, around this time was when obligate bipedalism developed. This means instead of monkeys with large arms who could walk bipedally or quadrupedally, all ancient hominids species began to walk on only 2 legs and lost their quadrupedal ability. This is likely due to leaving an arboreal lifestyle and living in a wider range of habitats requiring greater travel distance. It's also because of the second important thing that happened around this time. The diet of ancient hominids shifted from herbivorous to markedly omnivorous. Before 3.5 million years ago, ancient hominids, who mostly looked like this, subsisted off of leaves, fruits, twigs, nuts, tubers, and a small amount of raw meat from tiny animals. After this time, the ancient hominid species began to hunt more, consuming a larger part of their diet from meat, and less from foliage and fruits, although they did still eat those things quite a bit. 3 million years ago, we began to find fossils of another species, Australopithecus africanus, and several others. 2.8 million years ago, we began to see new species from the Homo genus. Big breakthrough, which would first bring us Homo habilis, Homo rudolfensis, and Homo ergaster. The Homo genus had bigger brains, were more bipedal, hunted more, and used more tools than the Australopithecus. Homo habilis means able man or handyman. According to archaeologists, he ate lots of meat and lots of fruit. They found dental erosion from exposure to acidic fruits. No fires at this point still, so all their meat was raw, and they didn't live in super cold climates yet. 2 million years ago, earliest evidence of Homo erectus in the Eurasian continent, which looks a bit more like a modern human. Also, at this time, the bonobos split from the chimpanzees in the pangenus lineage. 1.6 million years ago was the first evidence of fire usage. At first, ancient hominids scavenged fire from wildfires and kept it going for as long as they could in their camps. Later on, they learned how to make it. Most meat was probably still consumed raw for hundreds of thousands of years until fire became truly widespread much later. 1 million years ago. More new species evolve as we get closer to Homo sapiens. Homo erectus is now widespread and pretty much everywhere. From this point, we start to find fossils of Homo heidelbergensis, Homo neanderthalensis, and finally Homo sapiens. The lineage is unclear and we don't know exactly which species descended from which other species. Also 1 million years ago, life got easier because this was a mid-Pleistocene transition when glacial cycles went from 41,000 years to 100,000 years and summers got warmer. Also at this time, big game such as mammoth, ibex, and aurochs became a much bigger part of the diet of our ancient ancestors as their brains continued to grow smarter and their hunting skills and technology advanced. Plants were still an important part of the diet, and some populations lived primarily on lean meat, so had to eat a lot of plant carbohydrates to avoid what's called rabbit poisoning. From 800,000 years ago until around 500,000 years ago, during this period, a genetic split develops between the Neanderthal/Denisovan lineage and the modern Homo sapiens lineage. It is possible that Homo sapiens descended from either Homo heidelbergensis or Homo rhodesiensis, or both. We don't really know. We do know that, well, God created us, and it's even possible that extraterrestrials were also involved. 700,000 years ago, we start to see more settlements above the 45 north latitude line, which is basically north of southern Europe, after Homo heidelbergensis learns how to make really good stone axes. 500,000 years ago, the first fossil evidence of spear use and hafting, which is cutting stone heads to go on spears rather than just using pointy sticks. Now remember, during this time was over hundreds of thousands of years ago, there was a genetic split developing in the lineage, and now we start to see Homo sapiens show up, right? 420,000 years ago, the first ever Homo sapiens-like fossils found in Kesem Cave in Israel. This would pretty much debunk the out of Africa theory of Homo sapiens evolution, but the mainstream scientific community needs more fossil evidence in order to confirm this. The Kesem Cave people were very clever and sophisticated. They could make fire at will. They hunted large game. In this cave, archaeologists also found the first evidence of food preservation, the first evidence of shamanism, and the first evidence of a teacher-pupil relationship to learn how to make stone tools. Suffice it to say, they were based AF. Homo sapiens fossils have been found dating to 200 to 300,000 years ago all over the place, including South Africa, Morocco, Ethiopia, and China. This calls into serious question the out-of-Africa origin theory of modern Homo sapiens. 300,000 years ago, fire is now used regularly by most ancient hominid species everywhere. Evidence of hunting continues to increase, as does technology and intelligence. I theorize that due to their long-standing tradition of eating meat raw, these populations likely used fire to sear the outside of their hunks of meat to prevent bacterial illness, and they still consume the inside raw. During this time, various hominids populated most of Eurasia and Africa. About 56,800 years ago is when the first modern Homo sapiens migrated to Europe. Unfortunately, they were wiped out by a geomagnetic excursion. Another group of Homo sapiens tried again 37,000 years ago, and they were successful, contributing to the genetics of modern Europeans. By the way, that original group of Homo sapiens that went to Europe, of course, the Neanderthals were already there. They lived together for a while, but both groups were wiped out together at the same time by this excursion that happened, right? During the last 100,000 years, all the hominid species got wiped out one by one during mass extinction events caused by cyclical geomagnetic excursions, which caused insane climate catastrophes like floods, earthquakes, and volcanic eruptions. By around 15,000 years BC, every hominid species had been wiped out except for Homo sapiens. Hopefully we can survive the next pole flip, which is literally happening right now. You might be wondering, who are the modern Europeans and who populated the Americas? Well, beginning around 15,000 years ago, various waves of Homo sapien groups migrated across the Bering Strait into North America and eventually down into South America. Each wave would do their best to genocide the tribes that came before them and take their land. Genetically, these tribes were mostly from Asian groups of Homo sapiens, so they had about 10 to 15% of their genes from a group of ancient North Europeans who had traveled across modern Russia and intermixed with the Northeast Asian population before crossing the Bering Strait. This is why some Native Americans have Asian facial features and some have rounder, more European facial features, especially in North America, not so much South America. The modern Europeans are a mix between three groups of Homo sapiens, right? The original descendants of the group of Homo sapiens that migrated to Europe 37,000 years ago, a group of farmers from Anatolia or modern-day Turkey that migrated to southern Europe 9,000 years ago, and a group of Bronze Age pastoralists from the steppes of modern-day Russia and Ukraine that migrated to northern and western Europe around 6,000 years ago. All modern Europeans come from a mix of these three lineages. That should be all you need to know. In summary, we descend from a long and noble lineage of ancient hominid species who struggled through a pitiful and horrendous existence for millions of years. Before 3.5 million years ago, these species more resembled apes and ate a mostly herbivorous diet of foliage, fruits, etc., much like gorillas or chimpanzees. After 3.5 million years ago, these species began to resemble humans more and more, and their intelligence and brain size increased as they became more omnivorous and bipedal and spread throughout Africa and Eurasia. There is no one ancestral human diet. The diet of these hominid species varied greatly from region to region and season to season. Also, they were not particularly healthy, as they often died very young due to very silly health problems. There is fossil evidence of ancient humans dying from vitamin A toxicity and dying from tooth infections caused by overexposure to acidic fruits. So, even before YouTube, carnivores and fruitarians were destroying their health. I hope you enjoyed this video. Please subscribe to my YouTube channel and check out my Telegram channel if you want hot, offensive takes on everything.